Okay, so today I'm shipping out a Clark Easy 8 floor sander. I do, either I'm sorry, it's a Clark Orbital floor sander, so it's one of these guys. When I ship these sanders out, they're kind of tall. They have this big tall handle on them. The handle fits down onto, that little shaft right there, and then, it's upright like this. But, to pack something like that to where it's going to take up room in a crate, it's just going to be impossible. It's going to cost an ungodly amount of money in freight fees. So what I do is I break it down into 2 cartons and I ship them UPS. So here's the unit, here's the base of the unit. I've already taken the handle off. The handle actually goes right onto this shank right here, screws in. When I take the handle off, I screw both screws in there. One of them is missing right now, but I'm going to put it in there before I pack it. And then I go ahead and package them separately. Now this base of this unit weighs about 115, 116 pounds. So it's actually underweight as far as the NEMA rating on this carton right here. This is the carton I'm going to pack it in. Okay. There's a rating here that tells me what the actual weight rate is. So it's good up to 120 pounds. Okay, and it's actually going to weigh about a pound less than the 120 pound weight limit that we have here on this box. So as far as making a freight claim or whatever, if something were to happen to this during transit, I'm covered. I'm actually going to be underweight on this unit, and I'm going to put it on my scale, make sure that we are underweight once it goes out. But you'll see that it is underweight. Now, one of the problems of putting this into a box is that it can be moving around inside that box and get just as broken as if I would have shipped it without anything around it. So today's video is about how to properly pack something that's heavy like this into a heavyweight box. And by the way, this is a heavyweight box, so it's got a double wall construction, and it's got pretty high burst strength, 350 pounds per square inch burst strength, and it's got the types of ratings that I'm looking for in a box that I'm going to ship one of these in. And I've shipped about 40 of these units over the last couple of years, so I definitely know how to ship them. I used to be a traffic manager at a company that I worked for 10 plus years, so I know how to ship heavy duty stuff, I know how to ship light stuff, I know how to make sure that something is covered as far as being safe, packaged properly, and I also know how to go through the freight claims process if it ever comes down to that. And I know that whatever I pack is freight claims worthy because it's been packed correctly. So there's the base of it. Okay. Now, part of what I do is I take these tubes out of here because I don't want to have to be dealing with peripherals like this. Anything that you can take off the unit, is a good idea. I just got to throw these into here. I'm going to be throwing those into a separate box. I try to deal just with the parts of the unit that can't be broken down, or that, I actually have taken items apart to ship them before, but, the least amount of work that I have to do there, the better, because the receiving party is not going to appreciate me completely taking that apart. Plus, there's no need for it. I can get it there safely. I've done it, 40 plus times before. Here's the peripherals. So I have a skirt. I have the 2 tubes that I just took off of there, the handle, the cord, the bag, and the tube. What I do with this stuff is I package this up. I put it in some of this white foam here, okay, some of this white packing material, and I wrap it. I wrap the pieces separately, and then I put them together and I wrap them, just so that everything is together as a unit and nothing's, separate pieces aren't rolling around in a box bumping into each other. It makes for a safe transport. It makes it so that everything gets there and nothing is marred because it came into contact with itself. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and once I have this all together, I'm going to show you what that looks like. And I'm going to take one of the boxes, which is a box that I have back here. I'm going to take this box and I'm going to pack it in that box, but I'm going to do a little bit of a twist. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the box and I'm going to modify the box so that it's actually shorter. The reason for that is, and again, this has a NEMA rating on it. There's your Department of Transportation rating, okay, otherwise known as a NEMA rating. Okay, that is a single wall box. So those items are only going to weigh about 36 pounds when they're packed, so I can use a lightweight box like this. And the box is adjustable. It has a score here for making it larger and another score for making it shorter on the top end. So the box can be made as a shorter box, which is about 10 inches from here to here, or it can be made as a box that stands 12 inches tall. So you kind of get the idea there. Okay, but I'm going to shorten that box, and the reason is because UPS will hit me with oversized fees for anything where a box will be over 130 inches in length, or in girth, what they call, which is the two longest sides. You multiply each length by 2, add them together. If that adds up over 130 inches, you're going to get hit with an oversized fee. And since I'm going from Zone 1 to Zone 8 UPS, I'm going from California to Massachusetts, the two farthest points apart from each other in the United States, I'm going to get hit with ungodly fees, somewhere in the order for a box like this, probably of $40 or $50 extra to ship that. So I'm going to make the box shorter so it comes in under the 130-inch girth limit that UPS imposes on these shipments. So I'll pack everything and I'll continue on with this video here in a second. Alright, I don't want to make this like a Shipping 101 video, but I might as well cover it since I'm doing it anyway, okay? All these pieces here, I'm going to wrap those in a piece of foam. I'm going to wrap this here in a separate piece of foam inside that piece of foam, and then I'm going to take the foam, I'm going to wrap this handle, okay, and then I'm going to make the foam part of that structure, basically, so that when I put that in the box, it's going to go end to end, and there's going to be padding on either side, on here and above the handles, that will keep that thing centered and moving as little as possible in that box, hopefully not at all. And the other thing is there's a little grommet that goes on here, so I just tape that out of here because it would tend to fall off. I've done a million of these things, so I know how that goes. Tape that on there to make sure that that is integrated into the handle, and I've got an instructional thing to where a guy can put that unit back together once he gets it on the other end. So I'll return once that's all done. And again, this part will be wrapped separately because that's a metal tube. I don't want that clanging against anything. So I'm going to wrap it, and then I'm going to wrap everything around it. All right. Okay, so now here's the box, and there is the stuff that's going to go inside of it. I wanted to explain that the reason I use this foam is that it's high density foam. The bubbles are actually not NEMA rated, so if something were to happen here and the bubbles got popped, during an accident or whatever, it's iffy as whether I'll get reimbursed for bubbles in a package like this. Now with lightweight, I probably would get reimbursed because the bubbles will be able to handle the weight. But for something heavier like the base of this sander, that guy right there, bubbles are not going to work because that sander weighs, as I said, about 115 pounds and change. So, well, maybe a little bit less as a unit. The entire thing's going to weigh about 120 pounds. Anyway, that's going to pop any bubbles that I put around it or underneath it. So now I've got the box here. Okay, if you'll notice with this box, there is, like I said, you can build it at 2 different heights. So I don't know if you can see that here. Here it is. Okay. There's actually 2 score marks here. I'm going to build it the shorter part because that's about how tall that's going to be. Maybe that's a little bit taller, but it'll squish down real nice into the box. This handle is metal, so I'm not going to have to worry too much about getting dented. Whatever it runs into is going to get dented, not that handle. And if it does, it's metal. It can be taken back. But, this handle is pretty well packed. I've never had one of these handles get damaged in any way as a result of shipping. And if it does, boy, that is highly negligent of UPS. There's no way that they're going to be able to argue that back, especially when it's packed the way it is. Packed very thoroughly, okay? So instead of using the top line, I'm going to go down to the bottom line. The box is going to be about 10 inches tall, okay? And it's actually going to be shorter than the box as it sits now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work from the bottom side because that's the side that I know is going to fold. So I'll go ahead and do this. I'll probably move everything around here. So let me just go this way with it. That way you can see what I'm doing. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put these in here just as if I were going to construct the box for a standard shipment. Go ahead and put it together. I'm going to score the sides so that I can fold it down to its 10-inch side there. So let me go ahead and do that. And you know, you could use a blade or whatever. I'm just using a standard pocket knife to score it. Probably need to sharpen this thing a little bit. Cardboard is really hard on knives like this. That's why you typically use a utility knife, but I don't want to dig back in my unit here to find that knife. So I'm just going to go ahead and score it down to the next level. Okay, so I'll fold these guys in here. And then I'll go ahead and, I'll go ahead and fold this to the next tier. So it's going to fold like that. Another one's going to fold like that. And they're going to overlap. So that means I'm going to run tape across the top here just to make sure these flaps are going to go. I'm going to run it all the way here. I'm going to, I'm going to have I'm going to have it taped up pretty well so that I don't have to worry about any end coming undone during shipment. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fit this piece in here and figure out how long it actually needs to be. So that's the padding, and I want to make it as short as possible. As I said, I want to go under that 130-inch girth size that UPS specifies, where I'm going to have to pay extra fees. So basically, I'm just going to measure it out here. As you can see, it does not come to the top of that box. So I'm going to cut the box right about here, okay, and it's going to shorten in and go against that top handle part. The bottom part of the handle is padded in down there. So I'm going to go ahead and push it in. So I'll follow those steps as I go along here. So basically, I'm just going to take a pen and just mark it in so that I know where I have to cut. I can run along these ribs here. You can see these ribs here. Well, you might not be able to see them, but there's actually ribs because the box is corrugated. So I'm just going to go ahead and make myself a little mark where it's got to be done. And I'm going to draw a line, and then I'm going to cut along the mark. So I'll be back after I've done that, or as I'm doing it. Okay, so where I scored it by hand, I'm just going to go ahead and mark a straight line here. You want to use a straight edge, obviously. I don't have my yardstick with me, otherwise I would have used that. But just kind of get the idea here. So I'm going to go ahead and mark it, and I'm going to be cutting on that edge and on this edge, and I'm going to cut all the way down so the end of the box is cut off. I don't like cutting these flaps because they get a little bit messy, so basically I'm going to compress the end of the box into the other end of the box. I'm going to build it, then I'm going to compress it, and you'll kind of see how it all ties in together. So now I'm going to, after I've marked the other side, I'm going to just go ahead and run a razor along there. Well, I guess I can probably show that. No, I want to I want to mark the other side, and then I'm going to go ahead and show it. So I'll be back. Okay, so to transfer the depth of the cut, what I do is I go in. I measured it, so it's actually at the rib that's at 5 3/8. So it's actually, oops, 5 3/8 into the box. So that rim is going to be 5 3/8. Right there. Okay. So that way I know that I'll have, just double check it. I'm going to run a line up along there, and then I'm going to cut along that line. The box for the main body of the sander, and as I said, total weight on this, I said 130 pounds. It's actually going to be 120 pounds total weight, and that's actually going to be rated about 4 or 5 pounds over what it's rated. I say what it's rated at over, just so I don't get dinged by UPS for the rate itself. If my box is 1 pound over, they're going to charge me to rebill my box, just like any trucking company would. Okay, so basically the box is going to be a double wall box. It's going to be, I use these U-Haul boxes. Okay, they're moving boxes. This is a wardrobe box here, and for some reason UPS was U-Haul was pretty wise. They decided to go with a double wall box. So it is rated at 120 pound maximum weight rating with a burst test, I think, of 360 pounds. That's 350 pounds, okay? So I'm going to use the box, I'm going to use foam, and then I'm going to use 2 other boxes in the construct of the support system for the sander once it's inside the box. So this foam here is kind of long. I'm going to cut it in 2 pieces. I'm going to use one on the top and one on the bottom. And that's going to be to protect the sander's base from getting, if it were dropped, and to protect the top if it were toppled over. And the middle parts are going to be inside the box. They're going to be actually supported, and it's going to be suspended inside that box so it does not move during transit. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this box together. I'm going to have to measure the cargo once it's in there. So let me go ahead. Let me see if I'm framed here. I don't think you really need to watch me put a box together, but just for grins, we'll go ahead and do it. Okay, and let's see. Okay, front and back. Okay, I always goes to the labels showing on the outside, and this is the long side, so you want to fold the insides in, the short sides in, and the long sides are going to be what supports it. And where's my tape gun here? Okay, so just go ahead and stretch it over. Now the basic first part of this, what I'm going to be doing here is, oh yeah, I got to tape it together. I'm going to put the foam in there, then I'm going to put some cardboard on top of the foam. The foam doesn't get all chewed up, because this foam, man, it's really easy to flake it up. So you have to protect the foam when you put it in there, because the bottom of that sander, it has a little bit of an abrasive surface to it, and you don't want to directly put the weight actually on the foam. You want it to be buffered by something. So I'm going to buffer it with the cardboard pieces that I'm going to cut from these top panels here. Okay, see these top panels right here? I'm going to cut those pieces out. I'm going to make a flap. It's going to be a false floor. It's going to go on top of this foam. So that's going to be the bottom of the box. Then I'm going to measure how high that comes up. I'm going to measure how high the sander is. Then I'm going to figure out the foam fitting on top so that everything fits real nice and snug. So I'll return to that action here. Oh, and one more challenge about this is these boxes actually have a perforation up here. So I'm going to cut it down to size, and I'm going to fold these walls, okay? And what's going to do is it's going to create new flaps, and the box is going to be considerably shorter. It's going to be about 10 or 12 inches shorter. The problem with that is that this perforation here makes a little bit of a difference in how this wall folds. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to make it fold perfectly so that it's a nice straight line. Otherwise, if I tried to fold this normally, you know, you're going to get something that's bent. It's going to want to fold up here on one part and down here on another part, maybe up here or down there on the other part. It's not going to quite fold right. So that's the trick to folding these boxes and reconstituting them to be a shorter size. So you'll see that secret in a minute. Oh yes, I might as well show you the foam while I'm doing it. So basically, okay, wow, this foam's perfect. Okay, it's just as wide as that box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a segment of foam so it fits down at the bottom of that box. So let me grab my little handy dandy pocket knife here, if I can locate it. Got my pocket's full of crap. Well, I had it around here someplace because I was just using it. Okay, well, anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to size it up here, and it looks like it's just as wide as that box is. I'm going to score it right here. I'm going to break this piece, to stuff it down to the bottom. Then I'm going to take these panels off, and then I'm going to construct a false floor, and that's going to go on top of this foam. This foam is actually denser than the foam that I had before, so I like this because nice dense foam means that there's some security there. I can put some weight on here. I'm not going to have to worry about this foam coming apart because, first of all, it's under other pieces of cardboard, and second of all, it is a more sturdy piece of foam. And you know, one of these guys at a shipping place is going to cost you about $8. I picked up a whole stack of those things. They were lighter density than this for nothing, but you know, you're lucky if you can find that. So you're going to usually pay to ship one of these sanders. So I'm going to locate my knife, and then I'll come back on camera once I have the floor put in. Okay, I figured I would show the cutting of this material here, so I'm just going to go ahead and run a knife across it. It's kind of nice because it actually doesn't flake like the other stuff did. You know, I can score it to a certain depth, and then it'll usually break once it's been scored pretty well. So there's the score mark right there. So it should be able to just be able to pop it. There we go. Okay. So it comes apart pretty easily. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and stuff that down in there. Hate that noise. Okay, so it's stuffed down in there pretty well. And it actually fits pretty nice edge to edge. I like that. It doesn't shift. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start cutting these flaps. So I like to cut on the inside because you got a nice clean line on the inside here. That positively identifies that that's where the flap actually is. Okay. Okay, so now you kind of get the idea. I'm going to cut these flaps, all four of them off, because the top part that I'm going to have that's going to be left over is actually going to have enough room for those flaps. In fact, there's going to be a little bit of overlap. So it'll be as large as the flaps are. And the overlap is fine because it actually does add extra material onto the top to ensure that nothing bad is going to happen to that cargo. Okay. Oops. The other one and the final one. Now the other thing too is that if you notice, the box did have handles here, you know, for heavy handling, and it has handles down here too, which I'm going to end up taping over. In fact, I don't know if you can see that. Let's do this here. Okay, the handles down there, the height of this box is just going to be, usually it's like right underneath this one here, so that's going to be part of the corner. So it's kind of a little bit precarious. It actually might be a little bit higher though, because I'm using a bottom piece of foam, so it actually might be up above that foam now, or up above that handle now. And these handles, you know, they get cut off in the process. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this material and I'm going to create there's already a first floor that's double wall. I'm going to create a second floor on top of the foam that's also double wall. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to just go ahead and tape these pieces of cardboard together so it creates a false floor. So I hope you can see that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, it's going to create a false floor that's going to go on the bottom of that, and then that's what I'm going to put the sander on top of. I'm going to cut down a little bit to create flaps so that I get the height of this exactly right, and that's where I'm going to make my folds onto the unit, or onto the cardboard. Only after I put the foam in there to see how high up it actually comes. So I'm going to mark it on the inside. I'm going to transfer that mark to the out. I'm going to cut it down to that mark from visual view, looking at the inside of it, and that's how I know how tall this box has to be. Okay, so now I've created my false floor. Notice it's longer one way than it is the other. Okay, that floor is going to go into the bottom of the box on top of that foam right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop it in. It's all taped together so that nothing shifts. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and drop it in on top of that foam. And it fits nice and snug. Now what I'm going to start to do is work on I'm going to have to figure out how tall that sander is going to be in that box, and then I'm going to figure out how high up the flaps have to be so that the lid closes in on the sander. Okay, so to figure out how tall the sander is, the tallest part of this sander, the remainder of the body is up to this part here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of foam here, I'm going to get it to that height, and then I'm going to measure from the floor up to that, and it looks like it's 19 3/4 inches, so I'm going to say 20 inches, okay? That's how much how deep I have to make that. Now, one of the things about it is there's going to be a piece of foam sitting on top of here where this is going to actually be, you know, passing through it. So what's going to happen is this top part's going to be exposed a little bit. I'm going to put pieces of foam here to insulate it from the top of the box. So I'm going to actually roll up foam so that there's a little bit of insulation between the top of the sander and the actual top of the box. The lids that will go on top of it, it's going to be like 4 pieces of corrugation, so that's going to protect this piece. You know, unless the thing absolutely flips upside down, nothing's going to happen to that. And if it did, pretty unlikely something's going to happen there, because usually the damage that occurs in freight are in corners of boxes. So, you know, take a little bit of a chance doing it that way, but to make sure that the sander is in there and secured and pushed down and not moving around side to side is absolutely paramount in this. This piece can always be repaired because it's basically plastic. You know, it's like ABC plastic. Not ABC, but it's a phenolic plastic that can be easily repaired if it absolutely had to be. I'd just have the recipient send it back to me and I could repair it for him. Okay, so it turns out that the mark did appear just below this. You know, I've done quite a few of these boxes, so it always ends up being about here, but I'm doing this for video, so I wanted to show you as if I didn't know what, you know, was going on with this. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the box all the way around at that height. I use chalk line. You know, you can use pen or whatever, but I just like to use chalk line because I can just snap it. I actually make it a little bit taller than 20 inches. So snap a line onto there. I'm going to snap a line all the way across. It looks like that's not quite square. Go ahead and do that again. Okay, I'm going to snap a line all the way on all four sides, and that's where the box is going to be folded on all four sides. So I'm going to end up cutting it down to that line. So I guess I can show the cuts being done right now. I'm going to end up cutting it down to that line, and that's where the folds are going to be on this box. Right to there. And right to there. So to do the fold, I want to make sure I get a straight line. Now the first three panels are easy. The last panel, like I said, the one on the front, that's the hard one. I can do these ones because they don't have any extra, you know, perforation or anything. So basically I just go ahead and lift both ends a little bit there, and then I just get it to fold to where it gives me a nice crease. I fold it outside, then I fold it inside. I'm going to do that 3 times, and then the last one I'll have to show you how I do that one. Okay, so it's a little bit easier to score these boxes if they're folded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer the lines onto the outside, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut. Well, actually, I can even start doing that. I mean, you can do it however you want to do it, but you know, for me, that's the way I've done it in the past. The easiest way I find is to partially assemble it and then just start cutting it. I don't want to cut this flap because this flap's going to go into the inside of the box once I have it done. So it's going to shorten the box, and it'll end up being shorter than that 130-inch girth that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so well, I guess I can do it this way. That's fine. I'll just start going ahead and getting my cuts going here. Let's just go ahead and do this. And I'll cut it along these lines here. It's going to shorten the entire, they're going to cut off the entire end of the box. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold the box into itself. And what I'll end up doing is having a shorter box. It's just going to be short enough to go under that maximum size that I need it to go. Yeah, let me go ahead. Do this. I normally cut on the sides and then I cut the bottom part, so it doesn't want to fall apart while I'm trying to cut the side. It just makes it that much easier. So maybe you can kind of see it if I do it like that. Just basic stuff here. And it does help that I made a straight line out of a crooked one. And basically I'll assemble the box and then I'll stuff those pieces in the end. I'll lift that up a little bit there and then just cut down further. And there we go. Okay. And then I'll just cut it the rest of the way here. Okay, and I'll cut the other one too. So I can more or less remove it all at once instead of having a part hanging and having it super awkward. There we go. Okay, so now I've cut off the end of the box, so that's what I got. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and assemble the other part of the box. I'm going to stick the contents inside the box, and then I'm going to jam this into there. So, okay, let's see how that goes together. Nothing ever behaves when you're doing this stuff on video. Okay, just going to go ahead and put this box together here. And let me find my tape gun here. So I'll just kind of go ahead and run a stripe across here, a stripe of tape across, just so I have secured ends here. Kind of do it like this. I don't know if you can see that. Here, let me just get it. What I should have done was did both ends. So I'll just do both ends. This is the end that I'm doing here, so you can kind of see it there. I'm going to go ahead and put it together that way, and then I'm going to have an open end to the box. So let's go ahead and tape it together. Okay, tape that together. Tape that together, then I'll tape this end together. I don't know if you can see that end. Tape this end together. And then tape the overlap, so it does overlap here, okay? We'll tape the overlap together, just so I have a loose assemblage of a box. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and box this in. Just like this. I'm going to insert this end into the box. So let me see if I can get that on camera. Am I good there? Yes, sort of good. Kind of do it like that. So that's going to go in there, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and insert it in there. You might have to jam it a little bit just to get it in into those folds, and that's fine. It's going to add to the strength of the box on the end here. Just kind of get it in there. Try that again. I normally don't go through all this. I normally just get it done. But again, I'm on camera, so that's why the fudge factor here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and jam it in there. Just like that. That end is in. And the other end, I'll get that in. let me stand it up. That makes it easier. There we go. Okay, so basically jam it in, jam the ends down like that. Now I have a shortened box, so I'm going to go ahead and tape these flaps down. I'm going to tape over this, tape over that. I'll tape these flaps down once I have it in there, so you can kind of see how the box assembles. But before I do that, I'm going to stuff my stuff in there. I just wanted to make sure I could get it together. The final box will end up being okay, so 40, we're going to have to say 42 because you got to round up to the next inch. 42. Next longest side is 20 inches, I'll say 21. So 21, 42. So 21 times 2 is 42. Put 42. Okay. And 42 times 2 is 84. 84, 6. Okay, so I end up being 126 inches in girth, which is less than the UPS maximum of 130 inches. I'm still going to get a little bit of a weight penalty. I'll be paying for a minimum weight because of how big this box versus how much it weighs is, but I won't be paying the extra, $50 for the oversized box that you normally would have to pay for if this box were its actual true length, which on the flaps here is this box is 46 by 20 by 12, so I would be over that UPS girth by probably about 6 inches in girth measurements. So then that wouldn't be good because it'll end up costing me more to do it that way, and there's no need for it because the thing that goes in there is much smaller than what the size of the box is. Okay, so just to demonstrate here, I'll end up, where's my tape gun? I'll end up taping this box. So I'm going to tape across here. Tape across here. Alright, so one of the things about this is, remember, I cut down the height of the box, so there's a few inches more of box here. So that's why this flap doesn't match this flap where it goes. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to wrap it. I'm going to tape all these corners, and then I'm just going to tape it in real good. Then I'm going to run tape 3 strips of tape across there. And this box is going to be good to go. So so you can kind of get the idea of how that goes together. And what I have is a box that's going to probably save me about $40 or $50 in shipping at the end here. That's the reason I do this. So now I'm going to demonstrate with a bigger box that carries some heavier weight in it. That's going to carry the base of the unit. So that box there, I cut it down for security reasons, because to have a box that's too big with a big piece like that in it, that thing's going to flop around and break itself apart. So I have to cut it down to the exact right size, foam it in on both ends, and get it to where that freight does not shift around on the inside of the box. So you're going to see how I do that next. Yeah, and I did want to show the intricacies of the tape work. Anywhere there's a gap, I close it up, okay? Now here's a gap. I'm going to probably run a piece of tape up and down here and up and down the other side. But I also ran tape across so that, these sides would stay in together. I don't want this box to, fall down and then like burst out at the edges here, so that's why I do it that way. Like I said, there's not a huge amount of weight in this box. It's going to be like less than 35 pounds, but that's the way I put that box together mechanically, so that it's it's actually, believe it or not, it's actually sturdier on this end than it is on the other end. This is the standard, single corrugation. If I were to choose which side I would want to get dinged, which side I would want the box to be dropped on, I'd want it to be dropped on this side because it's got double walls along the edges here, so it's a stronger box on that end actually than it is as a normal box on the other end. I wanted to elaborate a little bit on using a piece of wood as a guide to cut cardboard with. Okay, I use this press board here. It's solid stuff. It's obviously heavier duty than the cardboard, and I use that so that I can press the flat piece against the press board, and the cardboard's going to give way once I fold it. So I basically, I run the press board along the line that I've marked off, and then I grab this piece and I fold it up. But one of the critical pieces about this, because this is double corrugated, so it's heavy duty, it's designed to handle 120 pound, the walls are rated at 120 pounds, so the weight rating on this box is 120 pounds, so it's a very heavy duty box. There are also triple corrugated boxes. I've never folded one of those. I don't know if I'd want to, because the thicker it gets, the harder it gets to fold, and the more untrue the fold's going to be. But anyhow, this double corrugated box here, okay, when I grab this, I push down on this, and then I actually try to get it on the ends. And the reason is because the ends tend to gather up on these things, especially this end. This is where the box is actually folded over itself, because the box has a seam where it's actually glued together. This is where that seam is. So basically when I'm doing this, I go to the extreme edges here and I push up so that I make sure that these edges get true, because if anything's going to go wrong when I'm folding this, it's going to be the edges usually. But I go from edge to center to edge when I'm pushing up to fold it, and I always kind of fold it out first. So okay, I've already done this one, you kind of get the idea here. But I fold it out first and then fold it in the center. Then once I've got the crease there, I just go ahead and bring it all the way. And then I've got a nice straight crease going across there. Now the other one, as I was mentioning, has a challenge, because there are, whoops, where is it here? The other face of the box. I've already done the other three edges. The face of the box. The challenge is that there's this perforation here, because this is actually a wardrobe box, so it's perforated here, and by nature it tends to weaken a little bit this side, not too much, but a little bit. But the real challenge is that it makes it to where when I start to fold it, it's not going to want to fold the same here as it is in the center. So to do that, I've been doing this for a while, so I take these little boards here and then I clamp them on the inside and on the outside along where the edge is going to be. So I kind of clamp them together like that using C-clamps, these guys. And then that way I've got reinforcements on the back, reinforcements on the front. When I go to fold it, the only way it can fold is around the guide that I've given it. So you'll see how that goes here in a second. Oh yes, and one more thing about C-clamping that. Okay, as you can see on the inside of the box here, I can see the marks that I've done on the side, so I want to get that wood between those marks. So what I do is I actually mark the inside of the box just so I know where I have to put this wood exactly. So I'll go ahead and mark it with the wood. That way I know I got the inside matching the outside, and then I'm good to go with the fold. I don't want them to not be the same height, because I'm going to have some serious problems when it comes to folding it if they are not the same height. So I just go ahead. This one I'm going to mark with a marker, and the outside, and then I'm going to go ahead and clamp them together, and then I'm going to use that as my structured wall to fold against. So you'll see how that comes here together in just a few seconds. Okay, so I've clamped the clamps and the wood running along the line there. You can see that there. Okay, running along the line, and also on the inside. So you can see how it is there, okay? So now what that's going to do is it's going to serve as a reinforcement when I go to do the act of folding on this box here. I'm just trying to get this thing centered. And I'll go ahead and flip this up a little bit. Okay, so we're clamped. They're running along the lines. I used a smaller clamp on that side because I didn't want to have a big old huge clamp. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and fold it up. And I'm folding it up because I can't fold down because of the arm of this clamp here. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold up. This one here, you got to be a little bit more steady-handed than the other folds, just to make sure that you're getting it all the way across. You might have to work it a couple of times to get that right. And again, you know, I wouldn't have to go through all this if this perforation wasn't here. It'll just all be one piece. I could do it the way I did the other walls. And I've done a few of these crates. It took me about 3 or 4 of them to figure out the method for getting this done. Because what I used to do was I used to just fold them all the time. They'd you know, 9 times out of 10, they would come out untrue. The fold would. They wouldn't match the other one. It'd be a little bit. It just wouldn't be right. And the other thing too is that when it's not right, then you have a compromised area in this box, in this structure, that could be compromised if, in the event that you know, something that a catastrophic event happened to the box. So you really want the box to be as intact as it can when it's going down the road. Once it's in their hands, you don't care, because if you've got freight insurance on it, you're good to go. You know you've packed it right. All the materials are up to you know, their standards. And you can do a freight claim if there was damage. You know, you can only do so much to make sure that product is going to be protected during shipment. So now I've got a fold here. So basically, I'm going to take the pieces off, take the wood out of there. I've already got my line started. It's not fully folded yet. And we're good to go. I've got a nice true line in there. Okay, I'm going to fold it inside, I'm going to fold it outside. And oh yeah, I probably should have kept the pieces on there because it does want to fold over. Once you're going back, so I'm going to put those pieces back on, I'm going to put the clamps the other way, and then I'm going to fold it the other way to make sure that I've got that fold so that this fold doesn't actually come to fruition. As you can see, it's starting to fold here. So I'll clamp them back on here right now. Okay. So I ran the clamps the other way. Well, you know, I probably could have folded it all the way because I can actually bring these clamps all the way to the side here. But anyhow, so now what I need to do is I need to fold it inward. So one piece on top, one piece on the bottom, just like before. Fold it inward, and now we got a nice clean edge on there going in both directions. That's important to the box because it maintains the structural integrity of the way the folds are, and there's no, you know, wandering of any material. It's a definitely defined corner on the edges, just what you need to be able to ship something and have it, you know, have it be in the best shape possible once it goes out the door. Okay, so packing this unit into the box is not the final solution here to getting this done. I mean, this actually has to be as big as the box is square. The wheels, I'm not too worried about these wheels. These are urethane, so they're going to take quite a punishment. However, I am going to take a piece of cardboard and I'm going to fold it so it's like that, and I'm going to jam it under the wheels so that when it is packed, it's going to be parked on top of that. It's going to have 2 extra walls of material before something can impinge on it. So basically it's going to have, what, 6 walls between it and the great outdoors, you know. So the wheels will be protected, and they are the sturdiest part of this machine, obviously, because this machine rolls on these wheels, okay. The thing that I'm concerned about is the metal. Okay, now this is pot metal, okay. Underneath is aluminum. I don't want either one of these to come into contact with any concrete or whatever it might be dropped on. So in order to do that, I have to keep this unit centered in the shipment. So to do that, what I do is I is I cut little boards here and I jam them in between the pad and the upper portion here. The reason they're notched is because there are little rubber bushings there that keep this, the pad in line with the rest of the machine. So to do this, what I do is, oops, I'm just going to go ahead and pull this up. I just kind of jam it in there. Okay, now that makes this about as wide as the box is. It's going to be slightly shorter, about a 1/4 inch to maybe a 1/2 inch shorter. But what this is going to do, it's going to prevent this from hitting the edge of the box. Likewise, on the sides, to make it as wide as the box, I do this. Now, the little mechanical rubber piece that I was mentioning goes up to here, and then this is notched to clearance this board right here, okay? And then this is notched to clearance the pad at the back. So basically, just kind of fits in there, okay, just like that. And then this one is done the same way. Well, I got to flip it upside down. It doesn't matter which direction these are facing in, because this is the part that you expose to the outdoors, but they're both going to be on the inside of the packaging. So I just go ahead and fit this guy in here, and now I have something that is fully protected on all sides, and the only part that's exposed is the wheels. And as I said, I'm going to fold a piece of cardboard to go underneath the wheels and extend up so that the wheels actually don't come in contact with the outside wall of the box. So that's how it's going to go in. And just to measure everything, I want to make sure that we're good. If it's not, I'm going to have to recut that cardboard or that wood plating. This should be 24 inches here. So, yep, we're exactly at 24 inches. It's just going to fit inside the walls of that crate. So I'm going to drop it into the crate. Whoops. I'm going to drop it into the crate. This unit's going to go like this. This is the widthwise, so this is 24 inches. That's, what was it, 20, it was like 20 inches or 21 inches in that direction. I'm going to drop it inside the crate, and it's going to, that thing is going to basically be wedged at the bottom of the works. Then I'm going to do more stuff to make sure that it's stabilized once it's in there. So you'll see that here. Let me go ahead and, well, I guess I can just drop it in right now. Now this unit is pretty heavy, so I always do the normal thing, bending at the knees and everything. Once these flaps are down, it does make it easier to put something in there. If that box was fully high and I had to try to put that in there, I'd probably get a hernia trying to do that, okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and drop the unit in. Oh, yeah, I do want to prepare a folded piece of material for the back wheels, like I said. So I'm going to turn the camera off right now. I'm going to prepare a folded piece to go at the back so that the wheels are fully protected also. Okay, they say that necessity is the mother of invention, okay? And the way that I've devised a lot of these protective measures is because I've been shipping something for a number of years now that is really not made to be shipped, aside from maybe crated in a box and knocked down flat or whatever, okay? And I don't have a custom packaging department, so, I had to figure out a way to do my own packaging. Now, I've shown you the boards around the bottom here. This is the board that actually goes inside this box, and it fits in the hole here, as you can see, okay? And it's actually going to be placed around this sander. I'm going to cut a hole out, and then I'm going to put it down here, and it's actually going to rest right about here. The first one will, okay? Then the second one I'm going to cut for this. I'm going to have it notched out for that and for this, and then it's going to rest on top of this head here, okay? So I'm going to have two of these, and each one of them is going to have 4 walls. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are double wall boxes, okay? They're heavy duty boxes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm taking the pieces that I've trimmed off of here, and I'm going to trim another box like that. And these are the pieces that I was mentioning that I'm going to put underneath the wheels. So it's actually going to go underneath the wheels. It's going to be the back part of the box. And that way I'm going to have 4 more walls against the other 2 walls. I'm going to have a total of 6 walls from the back of the wheels, back edge of the wheels, to the great outdoors. Okay, so now I'm going to fit this in here. I know that everything's going to clearance, so I'm not going to have any big issues with it. Oh yes, I forgot to put my pieces in there. I'm going to put these in there, and then I'm going to drop, oh, I'm going to have to trim these down a little bit. Anyway, I'm going to put these in the back. I'm going to drop the machine onto these, and these are going to be how I protect the back wheels. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and drop the unit into there. These pieces are laid in here in the back to protect the wheels. And this thing is heavy, so now I'm going to go ahead and just lift it and put it in place, and it should actually fit right in the box as designed. So let me just kind of give you a look around here. Okay, so it's in that box, and it's wedged in on all four sides. The wheels are up against the material, the double wall pieces that I cut. Double wall pieces are jammed underneath the wheels, and the boards are keeping the base of the unit centered in this box. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the pieces in. Okay, one of the tricks of getting this piece in here, okay, this is going to go right in the middle here, okay, and it's going to go over it's going to go to the center of this unit, as I was explaining earlier. One of the tricks is getting the hole cut to where it's actually centered around that base, because, you know, gee, where did I cut the hole? Okay, so what I basically do is I just kind of line up where the edges of it are going to be, and I mark that. So I'll just go ahead and mark it here. Okay, and then I mark the front edge, get it to about where the edge is, mark it, then I come to this edge here, okay, and then I mark about where the edge of that is going to be, and then I mark where the edge of this is going to be. Now notice it is longer on this side than it is on this side, because it's not perfectly round, it's oblong over here. So I'm still going to mark it to that edge, but I'm going to guesstimate a little bit of material that I have to take out on this edge here. Okay, I want it to be as tight around the base of that unit as it can be. Now I have a square. I'm going to cut a circle out in this part here. You know, I'm not going to use a compass and make it all perfect and everything. I'm going to just guesstimate it, cut it all the way through the material. Remember, it's 4x4, so 4 walls thick. Okay. It's going to go down into the middle of this unit, and then I'm going to cut another one with just this part cut out and that for the top. And these are going to help to keep it guided in there, but the true guide is going to be what I put on top of here, which is going to be a piece of foam, which is going to be pressed against this box once it's closed. So I'll be back after I do all that. Okay, so now I've cut out the first piece of cardboard. So I put a little bit of a notch in there. You know, I used to try to get it to stretch around there, but I can never get it to do that. The other problem that I have with this is that it's actually trying to fit under the base of this plastic piece here, but it's never, you know, obviously it's not going to stretch because it's cardboard. So sometimes I end up having to notch this part and then just squeezing that around it. But it's solid. I mean, it's not going to move side to side. And as I said, this is part of holding it in the upright position. The other part is pushing down on the top so that it squeezes against the top and the bottom. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this in here now. You can kind of see how it's done. You know, you're not going to do one of these sanders, obviously, like I do, but you know, the whole point to this exercise is that you kind of have to be the mother of invention when you're packing stuff. Oh yeah, there is the legs come up in the back there, so I'm just going to push this down over those legs, the brackets for the legs. Okay. Now I suppose if I was really smart, I'd probably put pieces of cardboard, you know, that are crisscross so that, you know, it supports it. But basically, I'm just wanting to make sure that the thing is surrounded with material so that if it takes a jolt, this this part here is just not going to come flying towards the front there, okay? So that's the first piece. Now I'm going to do the second piece, and you'll see how that goes in a second. Okay, so now again, what I did was I made a sketch of where I'm going to need to cut based on this, and again what I did was I pulled it to the side, you know, I used the straight edge, you know, kind of marked my positions here, and, you know, upper and lower, that, I know the top of this matches the top of that, and then the top of this matches the top of that, right there, okay, and then I made a sketch for, you know, cutting out the piece, and I did it so that it will actually fit the configuration of the box, or of the machine. So that's going to be the top piece that steadies it on the top. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut those out, and I'm going to fit the piece in. Alright, so again, this is in there. I added a little notch here so that I can relieve it for this bracket here. I didn't want the bracket flopping around in there, so I wanted to push it up against the sander, so I just put a notch in there. It's pushed up against the sander. There's not going to be anything flopping around in the shipment, you know, because this thing wants to flop back and forth, so I don't want it to do that. And what I did was I pushed this down so that it's actually against the little side part here where the motor is, I mean where the relays and all the works for the motor is. So now I'm ready to put in my top piece, and I've cut everything out to accommodate for this and this, and it's been cut to size. So notice it's been taped on all sides, okay, because, you know, that's where the cardboard meets. The only side it's not taped on is this side, because that's the side of the box originally. I probably could run a piece of tape there, but basically what I want to do is I want to, you know, 2 walls is not exactly strong when it comes to bending, but 4 walls is definitely, because that's 4 walls of material right there. So by taping them together, basically I'm making it a 4-wall piece of material. Okay, so now, whoops, just going to go ahead and push this in, down in here. The holes are cut out just right here. I had to widen up this hole here a little bit, but now it's good to go. So just going to push it down in here. Okay, and then now I'm going to have my, so there you go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of foam in here that's actually going to have a hole for this. There's going to be a little bit of space between here, so I'm going to probably put some foam pieces in here, because that's the top of the unit right there. Put some foam pieces here, put some foam pieces here. Then I'm going to smush my padding down in there, and then I'm going to enclose the entire unit. Okay, so I've cut this piece out now. I've never actually done it this way before. I usually just stick foam in there, or, you know, the other foam, the packing foam, the stuff that you wrap around material. But this actually works out pretty good, because those pieces of foam fit the box perfectly, and I'm able to use one piece of foam for the bottom and the top, and then I still had enough left for the midsection. So now this is a pretty good section here. It's very dense, and it's going to stick against here. I have the cardboard here. The cardboard is really going to be what holds it in place if it rocks side to side or front to front, because this foam really doesn't do well under side loading. It only does well under, you know, direct impact along the surface of the foam. It's designed to do that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this piece. I'm going to stuff it in here. I need to figure out where the nozzle is, where the top part is, and I made an indentation now. So I'm going to just go ahead and cut a hole out there, and I'm going to have a hole there. It's going to be sticking through the hole, and then on top of the hole I'm going to stick some of that white foam that I was just talking about, so that it's padded too. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold in the top lid of the box. Okay, so in case you didn't catch it earlier, I made an indentation in the foam. I don't think that showed up on the shot before. So that's the indentation that I was talking about. It's easy to do that. That way I know I'm going to locate exactly onto that top hose part. And that's where the dust bag goes for the sander. Not that it matters, you know, for the purposes of this video, but I'm explaining what it is. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So let me just go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and cut it out and then fit it into the box. I cut on the outside of the indentation because that's the outside of that plastic part. And once I cut it out, I can just push it through or whatever. going to go all the way through the material. Okay, so just push it through now. Now I have the hole. Okay, so let me try to aim this around here now. There we go. So it'll actually just fit right over that. And bam, it fits exactly with the top of the box. I can fold these pieces over. Kind of tight here, okay? And the idea is for it to be tight so that that sander is basically wedged in the box. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, okay, well, he's going to tape it up and there's going to be pressure on the tape and, you know, the box is going to fly apart. No, it's not, because I'm going to end up strapping this box with heavy-duty shipping strap. But that's the way it's going to be done here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably, actually, if you look at it, this part here is actually just below the foam, so I'm not going to have to worry about putting another piece of foam in there to protect that. It's already protected. This is probably the best box I've done so far. Maybe it's because I'm overthinking it because I'm doing a video, but this is the way I'm going to be packing these units with the extra pieces of foam in there from this point on. I've been doing it, you know, sometimes I'll have the foam on the bottom, sometimes I won't. I'll always have the foam on the top, and usually this will stick through here, and I never had the piece before that, so that piece right there, I like that. And this foam here, when I bought this foam, it's actually the right size sheet. You know, for $8, it's worth it, because you're looking at a sander that's, you know, that whole, you know, after it's been used, I'm getting about $1,300 for these, $1,400. You know, worth the protection to spend $8 on a piece of foam to protect it. So now I'm going to come back once I get done with it. I'm going to wrap the package, I'm going to strap it, and then I'll come back on video. Okay, so now I'm ready to go ahead and strap it. I've ran my tape across here. Notice that the lid goes, you know, in this direction. It folds in like this. Okay, so that's the reason I run the straps this way. I don't want to run them that way because it goes against, I want to get to go against the way the lids go. I'm going to run two straps. I'm going to run one on this end, one on that end, and it's all going to be secure. So, you know, I realize that a lot of people watching this video might not have a strapping setup. If you're doing heavy-duty boxes that weigh over 100 pounds a piece, you really need to have one. If you don't, and you're just doing it occasionally, you know, you can go to one of those shipping places. They'll be able to strap it for you for a fee. You know, nice plastic strapping material. Some places use metal. Metal is only used for really super heavy-duty applications. You'll see that like in a warehouse where they're shipping super heavy-duty shipments all the time. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this in my little strapping machine here. Make sure it's all lined up. Okay, so I'm ready to go here. And I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Get it nice and tight. It's kind of tucking in there. Let me cut a little piece of this off because I made it go a little bit too far up. It wants to wrinkle up, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut it right there. I'm going to put two of these metal pieces on there once it's tight. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, it's doing that because it's... There we go. Okay. It was pulling out. Okay, so if you notice, it's wrinkling the boxes on the edges here. You know, just need to do it to where it's you know, fairly tight. You don't want to squish that too much. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and put in my pieces of material. Slide this in here. Then I'm going to do two crimps. So one, I'm going to do the one further away from the machine and then the other one closer to the machine. This one will be out here, and then the other one will be closer, and then I'll be strapped. So I'll come back and show the box once it's all strapped up. Okay, so the first strap is on here. I'm going to go ahead and cut that strap now. So it's real simple. When I've used to tighten it, now I go the opposite direction. It just cuts off, and then I just pull it free. And now it's strapped. So I'm going to run a strap on the other end here, and then I'm going to put labels on the boxes. The labeling is very important because I'm going to put this side up labels. Now, UPS does not honor this side up labels. That's what they'll tell you. But I'm putting it there so that your common Joe, if he's not a gorilla, is going to respect that and realize it has to be this side up. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the label and the packing slip on the top side of the box. The reason is because even though UPS might not respect this side up label, they have to be able to scan that label to be able to figure out where it's going to go next. Most of what gets handled at UPS gets handled by machines, but there are people at the other end. So, you know, somebody's going to have to turn it right side up to be able to make, you know, to scan it for the next place where it's got to go. Okay, so now it's double strapped, so you can see how that all goes together. Here's the lid. It actually folds over the other one. I know there's enough padding in there. I know that the thing top to bottom is wedged in there, so it can't move from side to side. I know that if it does move from side to side, or try to, there's pieces in the base part that are going to disallow it from moving front to back or side to side. I know that if the top part of it decides it's going to try to get wedged, there's a piece in the middle, and then I know that there's a piece on the top, and then I know that there's foam on top of that, wedging it all together. And the box is going to stay together. It's not going to burst because it has these straps on there, polypropylene straps, which is a fancy way of saying high-density plastic. So everything's put together. I've taped the, remember the seams that were in the box before when we were showing it, I've taped those up just so that if something scrapes it, it's not going to accidentally come apart. The other thing I taped too was the handles here, because I don't want some UPS monkey to just think he can push his hands through there and make that box easier to handle. I want to make him work for a living. Plus, I don't want a weakness in the box at the very corner there. So this thing is as tight as it can be. It's packed as densely as it can be. It's as light as it can be, and it's as strong as it can be. And that's the whole point to getting this done. Again, I'll end up having the labels on the top side. I'm going to label this package 1 of 2 on each corner. I'm kind of old school. I still put the numbers on there with pin, with you know, marks a lot. And the label itself is going to say 1 of 2, and then I'm going to have the second box that I did earlier in the video. That's going to be marked 2 of 2, and it's going to have the label on top of it. So I'm not too worried about the other box, because the other box is lightweight. You know, it crashes around. It's not going to kill itself because it's a heavy, super duty heavy box. So I think that's it for the video now. I'll probably show some final shots of it as it's finally ready to go. This maybe I'm going to weigh it. I'm going to make sure it goes, I think it's about 120 pounds right now. I'm going to mark it. If it's 118, I'm going to mark it up to 120 pounds just so I don't get dinged for weight by UPS. And it's well within the weight limits of this box per the crush rating and all the different NEMA ratings that are on it. So it's able to handle whatever comes at it. If something happens to it, it's packed properly. The box is a double wall box. You know, something happens to this thing, UPS is going to pay me for this. I don't want to get into a big snit with these guys because, you know, time is money. They're going to hold up my money. The recipient's not going to be happy with me. It's just going to be an unhappy world all the way around. One more final thought here. With regards to orientation of the part in the box, I orientate it so that it makes the box balanced. I put a note to myself that this is the front side of the sander, so I put an F there, just so I know exactly where the front of that sander is. And if, you know, for whatever reason, if I have to take it back out of there or whatever, I know how I had it packed in there. Or if I get pictures of damage, I know where the front of the box was. So it's just one of those things that I do. I'm very anal about the way I package these shipments. Thanks for watching. Okay, so the packages are done now. So as you can see, the one on the right is strapped, labeled. This side up labels. Front is marked, so I know which. The reason I mark it front is because that's the heavy side. That's the part side I'm going to put the volume on. 1 of 2. This one is actually marked 2 of 2 on all 4 sides. You know, the label itself says 2 of 2. So, you know, label and packing slip on the top of this guy. The reason I put the packing slip and the label right here is so that it stays upright. And if it gets tilted on side, somebody's going to tilt it upright again because they got to scan that barcode. Caution labels all the way around on this one here. You know, again, UPS does not honor this side up labels. They've told me that, but I put them on there anyway, just so that anybody with a brain in their head is going to know that that thing's not supposed to be on its side. But that thing is packed really well. We tested it. The contents do not shift, so it's not going to move during shipment inside that packaging. Not the way I have that thing in there, unless it takes a traumatic hit. So that's the conclusion to the video on how to customize packaging. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you that. That's the walls. See the walls, how they extend out over the edges there? That's the walls. So if you notice the front, the two sides meet up perfectly in this packaging here, but on the front side they meet off to the side, and that's because this was perforated. Familiar with the perforation. So what that did was it made this panel move over in that direction. I can't even see if I'm doing that right. Moved over in that direction, another couple of inches, however many inches that is. So that's why it's sitting like that. But these guys are ready to go. The contents in this package, I wrapped it a little bit, gave it a little bit of extra wrapping inside so it wasn't moving from side to side. End to end, it's good, and it's padded end to end. That's the important part there. And they're both sturdy packages, and I know that they're ready to go to the East Coast, which is the opposite coast of where I'm at. So thanks for watching.